than you will for sale by owners. Similar, completely different strategies, right? So with one, I mean, we'll go through the top 4 objections for expireds, and then we'll get to the 7 objections that you're going to encounter when you work for sale by owners. The mindset shift, I think, is the biggest thing. When I had more luck with expireds than I did with for sale by owners, and every personality is going to be different. Expireds have been let down. They're a little bit more damaged, right? So they already distrust realtors a lot more. Both of them, obviously, you know, when you're on your way to the office and you're brand new, you know, the thing you always are thinking is like, you just want to find someone that wants to buy or sell, right? So the thing that I hear from agents all the time is like, I'm really good when I get in front of people. That's all of them, right? Like getting in front of people is the actual issue in real estate. And now that the market's shifted, that becomes the consternation that all of us have. It's like getting in front of and seeing more people. Expireds and FSBOs, and this is my old coach used to tell me, like, you drive to the office to work on your new marketing plan to find someone who wants to sell. Like that is the goal. And these 2 groups have already identified themselves as someone who wants to sell, right? They already tried selling and didn't accomplish it, or they're trying to sell it on their own and they don't have a realtor yet. So there aren't really 2 better sources that you could work. However, they're really competitive, and for anyone that has worked them, knowing your scripts and dialogues and really understanding the market and the business is going to become crucial, because the people who typically work expireds and for sale by owners long term are people who are better, right? They're more committed to the process, and so that's what this is all about. Sound good? So expireds, you want to think about expireds as you need to just assume when you're calling them that they want to sell, right? Many times, and you're going to hear the 4 top objections that you're going to hear. If you called expireds ever, you're going to get one of these 4 objections every single time. You put in the comment section if you're online, or if you guys have any others that you get, we'll go through those. But number 1, they're just going to stay with the same agent. You hear that a lot, right? I'm just going to stay with the same agent. There's certain things that you can say, and we'll go through kind of a script and role play Luetta, and I will go through overcoming that same objection. Number 2, I'm just going to sell it myself. Right? It didn't work with this last agent. I think I'm just going to do it on my own. That accomplishes 2 things for them. Number 1, they feel like they can be in control. Right? And number 2, it allows them to come down in the price, which may have been the issue. Right? In today's market, you have someone that maybe their neighbor's house sold last year for 300. Now their house is, you know, instead of being worth 300, their house is worth 275. So they think, well, if I have to sell at 275, if I do it myself, then I don't have to pay a realtor. I'm taking it off the market. We decided not to move. Get that one a lot. When you're working on expireds, you get a lot of people that are staying with the same agent, and a lot of people that just say, you know what, we're just not going to move. And then the 4th one, we already found another agent. If you're calling expireds the day of, you'll hear that one less, right? But if you're calling old expireds, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months old, and we'll look at, you know, kind of the strategy between both. So I think if you're working expireds, I would say you should be looking at them every single day, 5 or 6 days a week, getting on them right away in the morning between 6 and 8 o'clock a.m. Right? The lazy agents will start at around 11 or 12. They'll call 3 or 4. They'll get kicked in the teeth a couple of times, and they won't call them again until the following week. So the vast majority of people aren't really being proactive. So if your strategy with expireds is just to make sure you're going after them right away when they expire. And then everyone else, like you've had a lot of luck calling old expireds. And old expireds, you know, when they're over, say, 6 months to say 3 years, you'll get a lot of people that they have relisted, right? But there's a grouping of people that haven't relisted. And those are really good sources. Okay. So I'm going to stay with the same agent. So you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
You can go first. Are you doing the full script? Or are we just overcoming the objection?
Yeah, we can just overcome the objection. So the scripts that are on here are probably plagiarized from something that you and I have either said, you know, like I know what I'm gonna say, which might not be exactly what this is, but basically, if you don't have a script, right? So that's great when I hear you, you know, so I'm gonna stay with the same agent. So you can either read it. If you don't have a script, read this, memorize it, and use it.
And the best way for you to memorize it too is to write it down. So write it down 5 times and do that every day for like a week. And then also verbalize it, practicing it, and then it will stick in your brain.
Right. Like for me, we may have other scripts on this particular one, but whenever they say that they're gonna stay with the same agent, I always tell them, you know, so you can say that to me. So, hey, I see that your house actually, it came off the market. Are you still interested in selling?
Yes, actually, I just signed with the same agent.
Oh, you already did sign?
Yeah, or do you want me to not say you signed?
Well, if they sign, you have to give up.
Yeah,
right?
so
you can't proceed if someone already signed a contract.
I'm going to stay with the same agent.
Okay, awesome.
Screwed it up.
Awesome. And you know, and that's great. What do you think is going to happen different this time?
Well, we lowered the price.
Okay, what's the new price?
10,000 below.
Okay. Are you confident, or do you have any reason to believe it won't work this time around?
Not really. I mean, our agent showed us the comps and it looks good.
Okay. Would it hurt for you to get a second opinion?
No.
So here's what I would offer you. You don't owe your other agent anything. You certainly don't owe me anything, but I'd be happy to come out and give you a second opinion so that you can be 100% sure that you're on the right path and you don't end up having this happen again. Does that sound fair?
Sure.
Awesome. So I can stop by on Thursday around 11 o'clock, take me 20 minutes to walk through your house, and I'll give you some tips on what I would do to present it different to the market this time.
Okay.
Make sense?
Sure.
Awesome. So you're gonna I mean, anyone should want a second opinion, right? So when you're only trying to convert them, it's gonna be hard, right? I'm not trying to convert her, I'm just trying to share and add value. The worst possible thing is I've wasted my time helping the other agent get a payday. And so now my job, I already know I'm in competition. I already know there's probably a good chance she's going to pick the other agent, right? So I have to be different. So send the pre-listing packet, have it hand delivered, show up on time on Thursday at 11 o'clock, right? Share what you would do different. Don't need to badmouth another agent. I would say don't focus on anything the other agent did wrong. But these questions, you know, when you're going through calling expireds, a lot of these scripts, and so the 1-page scripts, like this one,
yep,
if you share for the online people, or you don't have that one up.
No, I do. I don't have it up, no.
So there's a bunch of questions that you should have memorized. And so they're all super short. And the reason they're super short is so that you gotta have the ability to come up with a question that isn't 3 sentences long. And it can get you having them talking. So how soon did you want to be there? Right. So, I mean, had you sold the home? So like in this case, I already booked the appointment. So I would jump down. So what do you feel your agent did best?
I don't really know because they didn't sell it. I mean, they seem to market it fine, seem to be everywhere.
Okay, awesome. What do you think they should have done?
Get it sold.
That's frustrating.
Yes.
You just leave that alone, right? Leave that alone. But when you ask these questions, like, what do you think they should have done? So you can see like this, I'm just going to list with the same agent thing is just easy. It's not probably the right choice, right? If they do the same thing as they did last time, there's a pretty good chance it's not going to be any different this time. They made a $10,000 adjustment, but maybe they're still $20,000 overpriced. Right? We know that if you're working expireds, a lot of times it's price. It's usually one of two things. If their house didn't sell, it's price or condition. Or summarize its lack of motivation, right? They may not be willing to do what it takes to get it sold. What would you expect from the next agent you choose? What are your 3 expectations? So you can see we kind of pivot in the expired scripts. You're going to pivot to basically a modified listing presentation. At the expired, I would do some of this on the fly. Like I would be doing this as I'm walking through the house, right? This cannot be a formal presentation, sit down at the table. Again, like the part that I would do different than I did in 1993. In 1993, like you book the appointment, you want to get in front of them, you want to show them what it makes you different and convert them. In this case, you really need to focus on building that relationship. When you're walking through the house, focus on building that relationship. What's important to them? What would they expect from the next agent that they would choose?
Number 8 has a mistake on it.
And number 8, yeah, this came from someone else.
Yeah, I would like to apply for the job of selling your home. Are you familiar with the techniques we use to sell over 5,000 homes? That's what I say.
Yep, and so you can, so if you're a brand new agent, right, you can use the stats of the office, right? So are you familiar with the techniques that we've used to sell over 5,000 homes? That's our script, so this just says 1,000 homes a year. I think we took this maybe from Jeff Glover or something years ago. And so, I mean, if you're a brand new agent, you've got 7 transactions under your belt and you're part of this market center, we sell about 6,000, right? Or actually probably 4,000 houses a year out of this office, right? So are you familiar with what our brokerage does to get 4,000 homes sold per year? Right, you can, whatever you have, like it may not be you, right? I used to rely on my old brokerage when I was brand new because I didn't have 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 closings. Your first 5 or 6 are going to be, again, you may have to use your brokerage, use your team, whatever you have. But are you familiar? So the script is the same regardless. Are you familiar with this, with the techniques that we use to get homes sold? And it's good if it's a large number, right? So it can either be your brokerage or your company, right? But are you familiar with the techniques that we use to get homes sold? No, they're not familiar. This is the first time we're meeting, right? So having these questions teed up is going to keep them talking and saying, well, what techniques do you use? What do you do that's different? When would be the best time? So again, we're already meeting. So now I'm going through her house, but thinking of these questions and having these memorized really make the meeting go a lot smoother. When you're working with FSBOs and expireds, it's extremely important that you're confident, right? With FSBOs, and we'll get into those in a minute, with expireds, I almost feel like you need to be more pushy, right? You need to be more pushy because they've already been let down by someone who was very passive. The reason a house expires is because that agent was not good at getting them to the right price or the right condition or both. If you lose a listing, you have to admit you didn't do your job and tell them the truth. That's how it becomes an expired. Right? The better you get at telling people the truth, the less expireds you will have. When the market shifts like this, even good agents will have expireds. Right? Because when you listed a house, let's just say 5 months ago, and we've had this happen to us, you list a house 5 months ago, the market says it was worth 700,000, and it's like, well, now it's worth 650. Like you're the one that recommended something, right? Based upon prior effects, but the market was falling, right? And if in a normal market, we lost 5, 6, 7%, so in some cases 10%, I was going to pull up some stats, but for those of you that are in our association, so St. Paul Association, you click on the St. Paul Association of Realtors, front page, click on statistics, click on Washington County, and then click on Woodbury and Lake Elmo. Today, right, look at those 2 cities. Look at the stat differences between those 2. If I could pull them up, I would show you.
You can.
Oh, pull up. Yeah.
Start.
Oh,
Where do you want me to go?
so just go to the St. Paul Association of Realtors, click on the website. When you go to this, and I was looking at this based on, because I'm trying to do a market on a house in Woodbury, and I was just looking at the difference between Lake Elmo and Woodbury. And statistics are sometimes, so right here, click on statistics. They'll come up on a map, select report. Select Washington County. And then select Woodbury. So this will give you, okay, this is what happened in January of 2023. Right? So this looks kind of decent. It's like, oh, new listings are up 3.7%. Closed sales are down 36%. The median sales price went up 22.7. But if I jump down here, if I look at this, I say, okay, from 2022 to 2023, the average price per square foot dropped by 10 bucks. So how is that possible? See, sometimes when we're looking at these stats, we're not paying attention to the actual data. What this is really saying is even though the median sales price went from 393 to 483, all that means is bigger houses with people with more money kept buying. Right? The average price per square foot dropped. So the dollar value of a home actually went down by 4.2%. But if I look at these stats, I think, oh, Woodbury's good. Like, hey, prices are up. No, some prices are up and the more expensive houses were successful, right? Now, click back one. So when you're looking at these statistics, Lake Elmo ones, and just look at the polar opposite, right? So the new listings are up 47%. The closed sales are down 72%. Now, why is it so much different in Lake Elmo? New construction, right? 2/3 of new construction, or 2/3 of Lake Elmo right now is new construction, right? We just were in this review a couple of weeks ago about like how it's just booming and booming. Yeah, but it's like, it feels like it's doing this, right? Because new construction is expensive per square foot, right? That's the most expensive home someone can buy. And those people are more worried about waiting 8, 9, 10, 12 months to lock in on a rate. Right? So when you look at the sales, right? So closed sales in January went from 18 last year to 5 this year. 5 in the whole city. 5 sales in the entire city of Lake Elmo. That's kind of a big jump, right? So when we look at this, if I'm taking a listing at 600,000 in Lake Elmo, and I had to explain this to one of my clients today because we listed what we are one of these sales in January in Lake Elmo. Right? One of the 5 was us, but we went 50,000 under where I recommended last year on the same exact house. Instead of being the person who sat on the market, reduced the price when in like August. And so if you're looking at these stats, your average sales price again from 2022 jumps from 668 to 750. You just have to be careful that you don't recommend to a client like, hey, the values are way up, the values are way up. Price per square foot actually did go up in this case, right? And your days on market though went from 42 to 99, which is triple Woodbury. And again, that's mostly new construction because you got a lot of houses that sit on the market for 5, 6, 7 months. And in many cases, it's skewed a little bit with new construction because they take a long time to build, right? So a new model, for instance, might have a market time of 6 or 7 months, and that's because the builder doesn't want to let it. The reason I bring up these stats, and we can get back to the scripts and overcoming and role playing, it's easier. The market knowledge is one of the biggest reasons we get tripped up on our scripts and dialogues because we don't know what to say when they ask about what's happening in the market. In just a couple minutes, you can click on any city and you can find out what's happening right now. But you really got to look at the data and you got to look at last year's data versus this year's. And what are the trends? What's happening? Every city is going to be a little bit different. Every price range is a little bit different. There isn't, the blanket, right, Twin Cities average. But the funny thing is, we could go back. We don't want to spend the whole time going through stats, but you could go through the entire Twin Cities and say, okay, average market is down 5%. Right? Closed sales are down 20%. They're expecting us to be down 20 to 25% this year. We were down probably 17 all of last year. So when you figure the number of sales, and that's that compression, which is why we're starting to see more expireds, by the way. So if you've worked expireds the last 60 days, you've seen more expireds in 60 days than you have in 3 years. All right, there's far more expireds. The trick with an expired or with a FSBO is to get in front of it. You've got to get in front of it. And that they're not going to meet with 10 realtors. All right, they're just, people don't have that much time. And so if you've ever said, or if you've heard someone say like, I'm pretty good when I get in front of people, get in front of people. Right, get in front of people. Meet more sellers, meet more for sale by owners, more expireds, It's a matter of just getting in front of them and sharing some market knowledge. If you're going on a $700,000 house in Afton, again, click on the statistics for Afton, pull all of the sales for the entire year. So all of 22 and all of 23. So we only have 2 months in 23. But you can look at trends, right? If it's a $700,000 expired in Afton, you can say how many houses sold from 500 to $1 million in Afton all of last year. Now, these statistic sheets are pretty good because they allow us to kind of look at a kind of an overview, but it doesn't always say price range specific. So it'll say like, it'll give you the city overview, but it won't necessarily pull $400,000 closing and then a 1.7. It'll just tell you the averages. But what you're finding is when you look at markets, it's really important to look at like what has happened. And right now, when you work expireds and for sale by owners, you're active and pending. So we go through what's called absorption rate pricing. So instead of doing a market analysis where you look only backwards, with absorption rate pricing, you're only looking at actives and pendings, which can get a little confusing if you get to a rural area where they just don't have any pendings, right? If you have, like, for instance, Lake Elmo has 5 sales for all of January, you could look at pendings right now from 500 to $1 million, you might only find 1. Well, that's hard to actually make a market out of 1 house. So you might have to go back a little bit further, or for those of you that are familiar with the area, you know, okay, if someone is looking in Lake Elmo, they probably also would look in West Lakeland. They would also look in Stillwater, Grant Township, Onamedi. So they may look in, say, 6 or 7 or 8 cities. So when you're looking backwards to get your data, or if you're looking at your actives and pendings, look at a larger area. Maybe look at all of accounting. The more knowledge you have, the more confident you'll be. The more confident you are, the better your scripts and dialogues sound. So you memorize words, right? Which need to happen. And doing a little bit of knowledge before, a little bit of research before you meet with them goes a long ways. All right, let's go through another one. So memorize or have these little sheets with you. You can bring this sheet with you, have these little one-liners, memorize 5, 6, 7 of them. And again, it's really about you being able to stay in control instead of constant, like when they say, what are you gonna do different? Awesome, we're gonna get to that. Awesome, we're gonna get to that. We'll go through what we do different. Don't end up on roller skates where you're answering all of their questions because you haven't even asked yours. So we go to the meeting knowing that we have 5 or 6 questions that we really want to make sure we answer, such as, right, if you were to hire a realtor this time around, what would you expect?
So your objection is, I'm going to sell it myself.
Awesome. Do you use these word for word?
Do I? I do not use this one ever. I don't like that one. But this one, I can appreciate. I can appreciate that. And what I sense is that you're disappointed that your home didn't sell and feel that your agent didn't get the job done. I am sure if you worked with the right agent, that you want to make sure that you get the best possible agent for the job of selling your home. What are you looking for in an agent? To me, all of that is too many words. So I like to just say that I appreciate it. I'm sure that you're extremely disappointed. What are you looking for in your next agent that you would choose? That's all I say.
Yeah, so when you're memorizing scripts and dialogues, like I always feel like less words is better. The less words you can say, the more that they say.
Right.
If you focus on the questions that you ask, so the presentation becomes less about you and more about them. If you've been to our listing presentation class, again, it's, you know, tell me about your past experiences in working with realtors. If it's an expired, they have one graphic experience that's very recent. So you need to think of our listing presentation as your guideline for working expireds. Just tell me about what went well. Just don't open it up with like, what did you hate about your current agent? Right? They'll probably have some things that they think they did wrong. That's how it ended up expired. But fully 50% of expireds do list with the same agent, right? So half of the people do go back on with the same agent, right? So they have some sort of connection, or they just don't feel that you're any different. And so our job is to really expose to them that they do have some concerns with doing the same thing again. So I can appreciate that. I can sense that you're disappointed. What do you expect from the next agent that you choose? What do you expect this time around? Fewer words is better. Confidence comes from your ability to know that you can help them, right? So when you focus the meeting on them, when you focus on the questions that you ask instead of like what you can do, anytime you get uncomfortable, they're asking you like, what specifically are you going to do for marketing? And you're like, you want to make sure you ask questions about what's important. You know what? Awesome. We'll get to that. Awesome. We'll get to that. In our case, we have our selling plan. It goes through all of our marketing, and we can go through each of the 20 pages. Ultimately, what we know is that they care less about the 20 pages and they care more that you actually pay attention to what's important to them.
The more questions you ask, the more control you're in as well of the conversation.
It's a confidence thing. You know, when you start, if you're meeting with people, you know, what I used to have to do is record my conversations or record my meetings with sellers for sale by owners and expireds, and then mail them to my coach, and you have to go through them. I mean, if you're not doing that, record yourself. What you'll find is when there's blank space, we start stammering, right? We start babbling, we start talking about things that aren't really even relevant to what they're talking about. And you know, if we focus on the questions that we ask, there'll be less of that blank space. Because they spend the whole time, the 30, 40, 50 minutes that you spend with a client, if they talk for 80% of it, it's going to go up. If they talk for 20%, you talk for 80, you don't have to listen, probably pretty much no matter what you say.
And that goes for prospecting as well. The less you say, the better the conversation goes.
Yeah. They care about themselves. And the way that you can show that you care about them is to be really prepared with good questions.
Come from curiosity.
So, you know, this one here, so just out of curiosity, if you did sell, where were you going to move?
I'm going to script it.
Sure.
Oh, I'm taking it off the market. We decided not to move. That's the thing. Okay. You're asking me. Yeah. I was going to move to Woodbury.
Okay. And why is that important?
I just thought that it would be nice to get into the Woodbury School District.
Okay. Awesome. What would that do for your family if you got into the Woodbury School District?
Well, we're in East St. Paul right now, and the schools are kind of iffy. So it would just make me feel more secure having my kids in a better school district.
Okay. If we could show you that you could be in the Woodbury School District and you could accomplish your dreams, would that be a benefit to you?
I mean, yeah, sure.
Awesome. And so maybe we could take a look at it on Thursday at 3 o'clock. I can stop by, take a look at your house, and we can see if we could make that happen.
Can't you just look at the pictures online?
You just don't get a good feel. I mean, do you think that the pictures are exactly accurate of what your house is?
I think it looks good.
What we have found is that a lot of times there's things that are either missing, either about the area, the description, the pictures either don't do it justice, or they don't show a true representation of how it feels to live there.
Okay. Sure.
Awesome. So I'll see you at 3 o'clock on Thursday.
I get that all the time. That's why I threw that in there.
Yeah, and I mean, so here's the thing. They're just trying to find a reason not to meet with you. Which, I mean, again, if you don't think that there's a value in meeting, right? Like I'm 100% sure that she needs to meet with someone because she wants to be in the Woodbury School District. She wants to have her kids be safe, and she doesn't want to currently live where she is. She just wasn't able to do it last time, and she thinks that we're all the same, right? But we're not all the same. Right, we're not all the same because 50% of realtors haven't had a closing at all in the last 12 months.
And you can add in there too, that are you aware of how we've sold over 5,000 homes? That's a good way, because that's what you want to see. Not necessarily see the house as much as you want to sit down and show them how you can make that happen or put together the plan. Whenever I say, let's put together a plan and get you there. Right.
Are you familiar with the tactics that we use, the strategies that we use to get people's homes sold?
Right.
Right. I mean, you don't even have to go to the number of sales. right? It sounds impressive if you want to, say that we sold 2,000 homes this year as a brokerage or 4,000, or we sold 5,000 homes as a team. That's all ego driven, right? I mean, mostly they really only care that you can get their homes. Ultimately, are you familiar with the tactics we use to get people's homes sold? So that you don't have to be an expired listing, so that you don't have 20 realtors calling you to see if you still want to do something, because obviously it didn't work. And that's a shame, because it doesn't have to be that way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Perfect. So 3 o'clock Thursday, I'll see you at your house. Take us 30 minutes to walk through the house.
Perfect.
And so when you're booking the appointment, never book it for an hour, right? Never, I mean, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 13 minutes, whatever you come up with, but make sure that it's an approachable number, right? No one wants someone coming over to their house for an hour. What you're going to find is that after about 10 or 15 minutes, they're going to want you to obviously stay. I mean, they don't have a bunch of free time either, right? But they really, if they want to move, then your job is to help them. If they don't want to move, then your job is to help them stay. Right? And I mean, you had that happen the other day. I mean, that was a really good client that wanted to move. They thought they wanted to move. They really wanted ideas on how to move. You talked them into staying. And ultimately, that will be a lot of closings in the future. It's not one today. Right? But our job isn't to try and talk them into moving. It's just to find out if they are ready. And some aren't, right? Some people, it's not the best thing to do. In that particular case, I don't know if you want to share that, but it's like, it wasn't the best thing for them.
It wasn't at all. It was, so the wife, the husband is traveling a lot for work. The wife has 3 little kids. She's a stay-at-home mom. And when they bought their house in 2021, they had lost out on 4 homes prior to that. And then this one, they had to write the offer for like $50,000 over. So in her mind, she feels like she overpaid for the house. There was a lot of work that needed to be done to it. They're well on their way of getting the work done, but she's overwhelmed. She's overwhelmed. Her husband's gone all the time. He doesn't want to move. She just is like, I'll just go buy a different house. We'll sell this as is, and I'll go buy a different house without any issues. So that's what she was saying. He doesn't, but she doesn't want to overpay. She doesn't want to overpay. She doesn't know where she's going to go. And she absolutely loves her house. I'm like, well, where would you go? I mean, we can start looking for homes. Where would you go? I don't know. I really love it right here. I mean, look at the backyard. I mean, look at this. And I'm like, yeah, it's just amazing. What you've done is amazing. And she's like, yeah, I really do love this house.
And you really focus on them. And could they really decide to talk themselves into moving? Of course, but they don't want to move now. And I think, people like scripts and dialogues get a bad rap because I think a lot of people think that your job is to learn scripts and dialogues so that you actually can talk them into moving, that's 100% wrong, right? You should learn scripts and dialogues so that you can increase your confidence. Right? If you walk into an appointment, you're a babbling buffoon and you kind of look nervous and you got sweat dripping down your brow. That is the reason you want to learn scripts and dialogues, not so you can convert them, right? This goal is not to necessarily convert them. It's to find out if they really have a desire, need, and ability to move, right? So that DNA that has to be present in every single buyer and seller that goes to a closing, scripts and dialogues is your ability to really uncover that motivation or discover that they don't have it. Right? If you discover that they're not motivated, your job is just to help them whenever they become motivated, right? Maybe that's in 6 months or maybe that's in 6 years. And that's where we build clients for life. So the scripts and dialogues, again, I can't say it enough because I think that the old school way of selling real estate was to learn scripts and dialogues so that when they say this, you say that. And it's like you're trying to sweep their legs so you can get them in a full Nelson or something. That's not the goal, right? The goal is to help them on a timeline that works for them. If they don't want to move, you should uncover that as soon as possible and follow up with a time when they do move.
The goal is to just talk to enough people. So instead of always be closing, you want to always be in conversation. So if you're in conversation with enough people, then you will get to your end goal.
Yeah. So meet with enough people. And that is ultimately for sale by owners and expireds. We should segue into the expireds. I mean, we've gone through some of these. We don't have time to go through every single one. If you want all the expired scripts and dialogues, email about us and put a message in the chat thing. And we'll get you a copy of the expired plan and the expired scripts, and then the for sale by owner plan and for sale by owner script. So expired, when you're calling them, again, you should be, you definitely, having a high D or being a driven kind of high ego type person is helpful if you're working expireds, right? Because you are going to deal with getting kicked in the face just a little bit, because expireds have been already let down. So these are the people that hang up on you more, right? They've been let down by another agent. Like, you're the 50th call I've gotten today, right? And so ultimately your job is to find out if they really want to move, right? Do they really want to move, and can I help? With a FSBO or a for sale by owner, they already think they can do it on their own. And so you're less trying to convert a for sale by owner and more trying to build a relationship. I see way too many agents try to talk a for sale by owner, to tell a for sale by owner that they're not going to be able to sell it on their own, right? Their tactic is to tell them that, you know, like, well, when are you going to hire a realtor, right? How long are you going to try this on your own? Those are decent questions, but really the best question you can ask a for sale by owner is, where are you going to move? Like, what makes you think you want to move in the first place? And get to their motivation, right? Maybe they're selling it on behalf of a loved one. Maybe they're deciding that they're, you know, maybe they're getting divorced, right? For sale by owners, many times have already met with a realtor. They didn't maybe necessarily like what that person had to say, or they feel confident that they can do just as good a job on their own. With for sale by owners, it's going to take a lot more follow-up than an expired. Expireds, I don't know if we have the stats, but I bet you 30% of expireds list within 2 weeks. So, I mean, you really got to be after them those first 2 weeks. The remaining ones, you know, maybe take anywhere from 6 months to 6 years, right? I mean, I bet a lot of expireds sit off the market for a long time. And that's why old expireds can be good. For sale by owners, it's much more about a relationship. The 7 objections that you're going to get, bring me a buyer. You know what? Awesome. Are you willing to pay a half a commission if I bring you a buyer?
Sure.
Awesome. When would be a good time for me to stop by and see the features and benefits of your home?
You can come tonight after 5 if you want.
Perfect. I'll be by about 5:15.
Perfect.
So your goal with for sale by owners is to pop by. Your job is to get a pop by. If you can't get a pop by, you can't list the house. Right? Now just don't meet with me, or don't want to meet with me. I mean, I got all the pictures online.
Do you have a buyer for the house?
You know what? I would need to walk through it to really see the features and benefits. I mean, you take it for granted because you live there, but I would love to see it and then try to find you a buyer.
You know, I spent a lot of time and had professional photography done. It's all on Zillow.
That's awesome.
You can go look there.
Awesome. Would it be all right if I stop by just to take a look so I can get a better feel for the house itself?
Again, do you have a buyer?
Not
yet. Do you have a
mean,
buyer that's looking for this house?
Well, so here's the thing. If a buyer wants to see the house, the reason that they would see it is because they actually are in the market right now for your neighborhood. Okay, so if a buyer wants to come and see your house, they're in the market right now. If I'm meeting people that are looking, say, next month, would you still be willing to sell? I mean, if I find a buyer that does want to see your house, would you want me to tell them about yours?
Well, I hope it's sold by next month.
Awesome. Well, I would love to stop and just take a look at it so I can know the features and benefits and things that you obviously do.
Okay.
So would 5 o'clock work today?
Sure.
Perfect. So just don't give up, right? They're always going to be really obstinate. The reason that a for sale by owner is wanting to do it on their own is because they're usually pretty confident. So you're going to deal with someone who's just going to try and blow you off. I'm just going to keep asking the same question. So I'm going to stop by the house. Like if their goal is to sell it, they're going to have to show the house. Right? I mean, if a buyer wants to see your house, I mean, maybe I'll buy your house. Right? Would it make a good rental?
Maybe.
Would it?
Yeah.
Have you checked into like what it would rent for?
No.
And what is it? So it's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath?
Yes, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 3-car garage.
In Maplewood. So I mean, you should be somewhere in that $2,200 to $2,500 a month range.
I have no idea. I've never looked at it.
Have you ever considered maybe keeping it as a rental?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to take a look at it. Maybe I would be interested in just buying it as an investment.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, any property, so we should be looking for real estate, you as a licensed professional, we should be looking all the time. If they're willing to sell this at a discount, maybe without paying commission, maybe they'd be willing to sell this to me for a deal.
So
Right.
one of the things that when I'm talking to for sale by owners, I'm always asking where they're planning to move once they do sell. So I'm not trying to help you get your home listed. Where are you? I'm looking to see if I can help you on the other side. Where are you planning to move?
Well, so we already bought a house in White Bear Lake. We bought my sister's house. And so we're moving to White Bear Lake.
Great. So do you have to sell to buy?
No, we already bought it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's awesome. That's a good situation to be in.
Yeah.
And what's the activity like on your house? Have you had a lot of showings?
We've had 6 private showings, but we're having an open house this weekend.
Perfect. Any offers yet?
Nope.
And how long has it been on the market?
Just a weekend.
Oh, okay. And no offers?
No offers yet.
Okay. Well, I'd love to give you a second opinion. Would you mind if I stopped over and just kind of took a look at it and see if I can help you get it sold?
Yeah, we're probably not going to be thinking about interviewing realtors at this point.
Oh, it's not to interview me. I just want to see if I can take a look at it and see if I can find a buyer for it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, we'd be happy to do that.
Perfect. You hate that?
What's that?
I said, do you hate that?
No.
Oh, okay. You looked at me like.
Looked at you funny. With for sale by owners, I would focus on the relationship. So, I mean, if you can get in front of them, right, walk through the house, you're going to find out their real life situation. Why do they want to sell? Why are they moving? What do they like about their house? That's the stuff you can't understand from pictures, right? They want to make it about pictures.
And it's because they're annoyed because they get called from agents.
Right. If it was all about pictures, everyone would order their car on Carvana, but they don't. Right. It's like 1% of the market. Right. I mean, if all it is about pictures, that's not what it's about. Right. People want to sit in the thing. They want to experience what it's like to experience a house. Like. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Open Door would have sold all the houses, but they're going bankrupt and out of business. Right. So, I mean, if it's all about just like buy it based on pictures and just have a wire transfer closing and then, get the keys mailed to you, that's not what it feels like to walk through homes. Right. The home you live in now, like it feels like an experience. And sometimes that's for sellers, detaching themselves from the emotional experience of owning it is the reason they have a tough time. Because we know it's emotion, right? We know that owning a home, we know that owning a home, right, is an emotional experience, right? It's where you raised your kids, it's where you grew up, it's where you were married, it's where, you met your spouse. It's like you've got all of those things that go on in people's minds that are attached to just a physical real estate asset. And then you have other people that own a duplex or a rental property or land, and there might not be as big of an emotional attachment.
So let's just talk about converting. So we have objection handlers. So we know that with a for sale by owner, you want to get into the property.
Yep.
That's the Jason Gorman strategy, to get into the property, to preview it for if a buyer comes along. The goal is to get them to agree to half a commission. So would you agree to pay me a half a commission if I brought a buyer? It says 2.7 on Zillow. Okay, awesome. So the reason that that's important is because halfway, right? I'm halfway there. Before I've ever even met with them, I'm halfway there. So so I'm going on a $350,000 listing appointment. It isn't $20,000 in commission anymore, right? It's $10,000. So I've got $10,000 to bridge. So my entire goal when I meet with a for sale by owner. So your list price was how much? $350. Awesome. And you haven't had any offers yet? No. Awesome. If you got an offer, a cash offer, closing whenever you want, what would be the lowest price you'd take today? $350. So if they came in at $340 cash, closing whenever you want, you wouldn't take it? $350. I'm just being a hard ass. No, and that's fine. Yeah, $340. I mean, I would probably go to $340 minimum. Okay, $340 minimum, meaning you might go a little bit lower? Or? No,
That's the lowest you'd possibly go. So at 340, if you didn't get 340, you just won't move.
Right.
Okay.
Doesn't make sense.
Awesome. And how confident are you in that right now?
I'm very confident.
I mean, she shouldn't be confident, right? So in a real situation, he's scripting, so he's pretending to be confident. A real seller that's basically had 6 real people come to their house, is entertaining realtors at their house, should not be real confident. Right? We got to break down this barrier that she has, because you wouldn't be real confident after 6 days, right? You might be confident to me, I'm a realtor, but to your friend, you're like, shit, I don't know, I think I missed the market. Like all the stuff going on in the backside of her personal conversations with her real close family and friends is that, oh shit.
When you're talking to for sale by owners, you usually are running into ego.
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily going to reveal that they're not 100% confident.
So
in your first conversation with them.
And so at your first meeting, so my goal at a first meeting is to find out like, what would they take? Right? What would they take if you got an offer, you know, again, 335 cash, 337. I mean, would you move?
I mean, maybe. It just depends.
Okay. And the reason I bring this up is because she already agreed to 340 and possibly 337, and I haven't even written an offer. Now, this is the person who believes that negotiating is her strong suit on her own, right? But we've already, so now I'm not bringing this up to her, but this will come in useful next week when I follow up to say, okay, how many offers have you received?
None.
Oh, no offers yet?
No.
Yikes. And the reason I bring this up is because when I look at Oakdale, right, or wherever she is, and I say, okay, 7 houses sold since we last met. Were you aware of that?
No.
So I'll email you those 7 houses. Call me back after you have a chance to review.
Okay, thanks.
Send her an email. 7
now
houses
you're providing value.
Yep, provide them value, provide them statistics. These 7 houses sold, right? All 7 of them, by the way, are not for sale by owners.
But and the plan is, so once you preview the house, and then you have the weekend goes by, that next Monday, you make the call to them again and just say, wanted to check in and see if you got any offers this weekend.
Yeah, how many offers?
Or how many offers?
Always ask them, how many offers did you receive? Right? How many? You want to plant in their mind that they should be getting many offers. How many offers have you received?
And when they say no, then what?
Then just sound disappointed.
None. Yeah.
Yeah, just sound disappointed and just like, ooh.
That's
now, if you've done your market research prior, you know, okay, now if Oakdale, for instance, or Lake Elmo is even a better example, only 5 houses sold, right, in the entire city in a month. You probably don't want to do your super surprise response, right? If they're in Lake Elmo and they're like, again, there's 17 houses on the market and only 5 sold. And of the 5, 4 of them are new construction, right? So there isn't a market. Right? But then you want to talk to them about their backup plan. Have you considered renting? Have you considered keeping this as an investment property? Maybe it's not the best time for you to try and sell. Try and talk them out of it, right? For sale by owner or a seller, and any seller you're meeting with, trying to talk them out of it is not a strategy where you're, you know, again, like your goal isn't to try and convert them. Your goal is to help them make a decision if they're maybe not motivated. Right, so anytime I'm talking with a seller, my goal is to try and talk them out of the move. The ones that really want to move, I mean, none of us are going to be good enough that you're going to talk someone into doing something that you want, right? But why not keep it? I mean, have you ever considered just keeping it, Louetta? It doesn't seem like the market's really moving. Nothing has sold in Lake Elmo in the last 30 days. In your price range, nothing has moved. Maybe you just keep it as an investment property.
No, I'm not interested in the
What is, like, have you thought of your backup plan? Because what we're talking about with some of our sellers is, what is the backup plan? Because not having a backup plan, like the biggest reason people have a problem when they start selling their house is if they don't have a plan. And then if they have a plan and the plan doesn't work, now what do I have a backup plan? If you don't have that, then it can just create fear and anxiety about like, is this the right time or am I doing the right thing?
It's only been on the market for a week, so I don't feel like I need any backup plan right now.
Okay.
I'm sticking with the plan that I have.
And so in her case, I mean, obviously this is different if they have only been on. Right? In her, I forgot that you had only been on for 1 week, but I mean, after 30 days, what is the plan? After 45 days, 60 days, average market time as we looked at it in Lake Elmo was 90. Is it 90 something?
99.
99 days. I can tell you when sellers get close to 4 months, they start freaking out.
Well, right now, when sellers get close to over 30 days, they start freaking out.
Well, right, because we've had such a warped market for a few years, where the average is like less than 6 days, they get to 1 week and it didn't sell that first. And here's the truth. If you have 15 showings in the first 6 days, you should be sold. If you're not sold, this doesn't get better in time.
No. And what's the reason for selling?
So 6 days is a long time, right? If you had 6 days, you had 6 people look at your house or 10 people look at your house in 6 days, which if you're let's just call it a 350, which weren't you 350? You're 350 or under, you're gonna have 10 showings in 5 days. If you're only getting 6 showings in 10 days or in 5 days, like you are, like the market doesn't even have enough demand for you to even get people.
Or not enough people know about you because you are for sale.
Could be, yeah, that could be too. Or you got bad pictures or a bad description or the wrong school district is entered. I mean, I can't tell you how many times for sale by owners and expires, I simply fix a few things that are wrong in the MLS, right? They have it as 833 and it's 834 school district.
I showed a house. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Off subject. Wasn't a for sale by owner, but it's a house that's been on the market for over 30 days. And it said that it had no garage and it has a 1-car garage, a nice 1-car garage. So I called the agent and I'm like, hey, just checking, does the garage not belong to the house or what's the status? No, that's just a mistake on the MLS. I just haven't fixed it. That's why this house isn't selling.
That's a huge thing. Yeah,
I mean, I thought it was so.
Yep, there are other people that don't understand the legal requirements for a bedroom, right? They think that, you know, because they sold real estate since 1997, that bedroom requirements are also the same. They're not, right? So they have it listed as a 2-bedroom because that's what they think it could be. And then really they have it as a non-conforming 3rd bedroom, which is not right? And it really is a 3rd bedroom. So, I mean, bedrooms, bathrooms, garages, square footage. I mean, many times you have wrong square footage. You have the wrong foundation size, right? People are looking for reasons to not necessarily show a house and they see it has a 500 square foot foundation size and it's just a mystery. It's really 1,500. So look at those types of things because for sale by owners and expires, many times there's just things that are wrong. You know, you can see it's a 3-car garage, it's a 2-car plus a tandem. So it should be listed as a 3, but it has 2 in the MLS. And that would get them maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 extra showings. So FSBOs and expireds, just to wrap up, expireds, I mean, I would be calling them, if I'm working expireds, it's between 7 and 9 in the morning, get 6 o'clock, you start preparing yourself by 7, you're making your calls. You're getting through all the brand new ones every single morning. We have an expired campaign, so we're sending mailings to them as well. You got to be out, like nowadays, probably 30%, maybe 25% of the people actually have a home, right? Of that, 75% don't answer phone numbers that aren't in their home, right? So, I mean, you're not even getting through to these people at all. So you're down to like 5%. If you physically drive to the house, you're going to meet with probably 70% of the sellers. At least 50.
If you go after working hours.
Well, or you go, I mean, people work from home. You go at 7 o'clock in the morning, like I can guarantee people are home. Like you're going to get 10 times the results if you physically drive to the house. 5% if you call, 50% if you drive. You're not going to get 100%. There's no such thing as 100%, but you're 10 times more likely to meet a FSBO or an expired if you go to the house. The 2 big builders that I've taken in the last 5 years were both for sale. Well, 10. The other one was in Stillwater. and that was a for sale by owner. I was literally driving by it today. He ended up renting, we sold 10 of these townhomes in Stillwater, and then they rented 20 of them, and a lot of the roofs don't match. Right, so it's like a lot of them are, they're just not in an association. So it's, that was a for sale by owner that we converted, or that I converted, literally driving through neighborhoods. So for sale by owners are really, really good. You just build that relationship, help them understand what's happening in the market, show them what's happening with pricing. The builder that we work with now, that was it. I was really just showing him that, it was really his buddy who was the salesperson that was causing all the reason that the houses didn't sell. We took over that development, sold the whole thing out. Took over St. Francis, another development, sold the entire thing out. Didn't adjust the pricing. In fact, we raised the prices. On a couple of them, we actually went cheaper. But in net dollars, what we did is we made lot premiums, or we just charged more for certain lots that were nicer. And ultimately, his average price went up in both neighborhoods and sold them entirely out. So find a developer, find a builder, right, that's trying to sell it on their own. Right now, you're going to find a lot of builders who are really, really hurt. A lot of new construction that's sitting on the market for 4, 5, 6 months. If you want a trick right now, you need to be going after new construction expires. Lots and land and builders. Right? Lots of land and builders, it takes a little bit more work because obviously you got to sift through, the Lennars and things like that, because obviously there's a lot of builders that may not, they have in-house salespeople, but there's a lot of them that are kind of frustrated because for 6 months or for the last 3 years, the people that they hired are just taking orders. Order taking real estate is done, right? For those of you that are new, no big deal, you don't know anything else. For those of you that have been around for 3 or 4 years, that's like, get ready. Because order taking real estate is already done. So FSBOs and expireds are a huge opportunity. And the big thing, the big conversion tactic is just to talk to more people. Ultimately, that's the trick with any prospecting, is to not be attached to them saying yes to you. It's just to talk to enough people that ultimately then the percentage of people who say yes is greater. Okay, we're done. We're over time.
All right, guys, I'll send you the scripts. Thanks for coming on.